Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This week, we've got Anastasija Saprygina. She's a project manager and producer. Welcome, Anastasija.
Hello, Ben. Very nice to see you, even though virtually.
I know, especially in a lockdown, right? But
especially in a lockdown.
Yeah, welcome. Well, the first thing I'd like to ask is, where did you start off and what did you do to get into the industry?
Well, I started off, I think I'm one of the more rare people who started off actually having an education in adjacent industry. I started as a film producer. That's my degree. And then I did work a little bit in cinema distribution business in Russia. But when I moved in the UK and got my first role at a big Scandinavian company it used to be called Modern Times Group, and since then it went through several rebrands. And basically that's how it started. That's how it started. And it was a challenge to find the first job in the UK because I have had a couple of years of working experience in Russia, but it did not quite count towards anything in particular here. So the first role took me a good 6-7 months to find whilst living in a really cold flat in Edinburgh. And
Right, okay, that's a bold move. Sort of moving internationally, sort of being a bit brave and trying to find your role in a new country, especially.
Yeah? Yes, I suppose you can call it brave because it's been a new country, not your language, but also trying to find a new job, and hence potentially it took me maybe slightly longer to find the first role. But for people who are looking for a job, do not get disheartened and discouraged. Keep looking. Unfortunately, especially in our industry, people very rarely even reply to you whether they received your CV or not. But keep doing it, and eventually it will something definitely will come up.
So why Edinburgh, Anastasija? What made you?
Because I did a master's degree in Scotland, in St Andrews. That's why I moved. And then we moved with my friend to Edinburgh. Well, just because we didn't want to stay in a university town, and I really liked it there. I would have stayed, but of course, they have BBC there and a few other production companies. And I actually think now, most probably, it's been over 10 years ago now. It's more media industry there, but back then it was not that much, and also the main requirement was not English and Russian; it was English and Gaelic.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't quite provide that. And my first role, admittedly, at MTG was part of the reason why I got it was they were looking for someone bilingual with Russian, because they were looking for a production assistant working for cable TV channels broadcasting in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
So they wanted someone. So language really helped.
Yeah. So that gave you the edge in that case. Right?
Yeah, that gave me an edge.
And was there any, was you always destined for broadcast? Was there any sort of, early childhood flags and signposts and that sort of thing?
I was thinking about that before our interview, and I really don't think so. I found it very hard at the age of 18 to decide what I wanted to do. Like, I always sort of liked theater, and I went to a theater group for years and years, and I've been always good in organizing people, and doing some sort of directing or literally generally organizing people. But that's one of those things where you think, well, do I just go in boring path and become like a generic manager? And I really didn't want that. I did want something slightly more creative and slightly more interesting, and hence I chose film producing. And I'm really glad with that choice. However, I really don't think it was destined. I found it was a hard decision to make, because I haven't had any particular inclination towards one thing or the other. And then it was a fairly natural progression between the film. I did work on a couple of features, and I just found the timetable and the intensity of it a bit too much, even though now I look at it with some nostalgia, but having a stretches of like 3 or 4 months being stuck with the same people for like 24/7, I just found it that for me the sort of work-life balance did not quite work too well, and hence broadcasting was the next natural move, because you still work with content. In many cases, you still produce something, because my first roles were in working with content and producing commercials, but it's not as intense and not for such a long stretch of time.
Yeah, that's interesting, because some people find, what they like and what they don't like on their sort of journey through broadcast. So I guess the unpredictable nature of film shoots and the sort of antisocial hours, that wasn't for you, I guess.
No, it wasn't really for me. Not in the long term. Like, I think, and a lot of people enjoy it, but like, for me, it was not quite what I fancied for, like, as a long-term career.
Yeah. And then, so you sort of did the courses and the sort of postgraduates, and you began to find what really does work for you. And then that period, you said it was several months before you got hired by MTG. What did you do to sort of push your portfolio, or was there any things that you sort of did that sort of helped you sort of get your brand out there? Or
well, to be honest, at that point, because it was I suppose because it was for the first time, I haven't had any connections really in the UK to get at least introduced or get your CV read. I say it was quite hard. I think I just like researched as many companies as possible, television, but also post-production, production, and sent as many CVs as possible. I did try to tailor, maybe not so much CV, because CV you write what you've actually done, but cover letters to a particular companies to sort of show how my skills or my interests may match their requirements. But that is like an awful and time-consuming experience. However, it does pay off eventually.
Yeah, because it's only a matter of time, isn't it? So the sort of the numbers you've got to think of in terms of, right, even though I'm sending out, literally perhaps hundreds of like applications, then slowly you'll get, a couple of interviews, and then of those interviews you'll get an offer. Something will come along, and that's great.
Yeah, I think the other frustrating thing that there was, because I was ready to do internships, but you wouldn't even get an internship offers, and that's obviously like free labor. But so it's like, it's a perseverance.
Yeah. And so you've got your foot on the ladder at MTG, and was it, you like the creative nature, and did you like being perhaps close to the content in such a phrase?
Yes, the first role was production assistant. So we worked with a big team of producers in the sense of people producing promos, so promotional material for our films and documentaries, and graphics designers, audio engineers. So that was my sort of extended team who I worked with. And of course, we worked, content and promoting content was what we did. And that was, brilliant, because at MTG, the range of content is and was very, very wide. So you get to work from like really, latest blockbusters to like classical films to interesting documentaries, so David Attenborough documentaries. So that was very good. But from that, I believe actually quite a lot of big cable TV or pay TV companies, you have sort of a pathway either to become creative yourself, so start editing and learning sound or learning graphics design, or take a management path that I took and become more on the production management, so organizing shoots, organizing teams, managing teams, and going that way.
Yeah.
As a part of sort of being a PA, and that was really good about MTG. They were really keen in sort of your career development. So they always encouraged you, if you wanted to edit, to learn to edit and to edit a couple of your own promos and to try out whether it's yours or not. They really encourage you to do it. And we had mentors who would work with us, because like production assistant is a entry-level role. So we were the youngest crew. And that was really good, because yes, I did a couple of promos, and it was good fun. But again, I decided that is not quite for me, because I found the nature of promo making so subjective.
Yeah.
But there is almost no way you can objectively decide whether you did a good job or you didn't do a good job, and everyone has a different opinion. You can show your promo to 10 different people, and each of them will have something to suggest that you should redo. And then even though however much fun it was, like, I decided it's not for me, because I wanted to be my job being more, where you can basically decide more whether it's a job well done, it's done on time and on budget, however boring it might sound, but I just found it more, my brain works more in that way. Being entirely subjective.
Yeah, because it sounds like, there was a lot of different creative and post-production roles that you could have, you did experience, but then you sort of naturally progressed into that production management role. So you spent quite a few years with MTG. So was it in the later years before you moved on that you as a production manager, right?
Yes, I became at that time at MTG. There was a smaller team of producers who produced commercials to sort of advertise all the pay TV services and other services that MTG offered. So not channels, but packages, and I don't know, Christmas special offers and things like that. So I moved slightly in about a year's time after being a PA. I moved to a coordinator role there, and that's where I already started dealing with sort of timelines, budgets, and shoots. And then from that, I progressed into a production management role also within MTG. There was a production manager at that time. She moved to a different role, and there was an opening, and I applied for it. And I think one of the really important and like things that really helped me out was that I was very clear with my managers at the time what I wanted to do, that I wanted to actually go on the management role rather than on creative role. So once the opportunities came up, they always considered me. Like, obviously other people applied, but they considered me because I was an internal candidate, perhaps in a slightly more favorable way. Yeah, and I stayed with MTG doing that until the company went through a restructuring, and Viasat World got created, and I did the same role there. It was a small company, but
because I was going to ask you about that, because some things are totally out of your hands. So if there's like mergers and acquisitions and spin-offs and that sort of thing. So how did it change then? So you've got the Viasat sort of brand of channels, and you were sort of quite happy to do similar work. And was there any deviations in the sort of work you did?
Yes. So my team at MTG, because it was a much larger company, so the team was great, and the volume of work was very large. With Viasat World, it became almost a startup. It was and is not a particularly big company, at least the part that is in the UK. So it presented its obviously sort of drawbacks, but also opportunities. In terms of minuses, my team that I managed became much smaller, and hence we needed to produce less work. At the same time, we could focus more on producing more unique work. So we did much more shoots and photo shoots and things like that. But also on the plus side, because it's a much smaller company, you do get to do much more other projects and then things that are maybe not directly described in your job description when I started. That at that time would have been about 7 years ago, and that's great. So I got to do, like a really big corporate rebrand, because obviously once the company got separated, it needed its own identity and its own values, and we tried to make sure that they were communicated in the office space, in all our, PowerPoint, but also in all our emails and in all our branding. And that was very interesting. And I perhaps wouldn't have had that opportunity if I would have worked in a much larger company.
Yeah.
So I think that was, that was really interesting. And for a couple of years, I really enjoyed doing that as well.
Yeah. So it's like you said, it's almost like a startup, and you've got some new opportunities, and you've got perhaps some more freedoms to sort of
definitely.
You
have a very direct line of approval. You literally 2 people removed from a CEO hands. Like if you have a question, final person, you can actually just walk into the office and ask them. Whilst, for example, at MTG, the levels of approval, because we worked with so many different countries.
Yeah.
And the main office was in Sweden with all the head of marketing. In Sweden, the levels of approval were so much more complex. So that restricts you to an extent. While at Viasat, the brilliant thing is that, yes, if you have a good idea, you go into your manager's office, or you go into your manager or the VP, share an idea. They like it, you go with it. It's it was different.
Yeah, so cutting out the red tape a little bit there.
Yeah.
And so you was with them for a few years, and I guess, would you describe it as operations management in the end, or was it still production or marketing management?
Yes, at the end, I officially moved from the creative team, because Viasat felt the need that they actually do need an actual operations team. Because again, at MTG, because we used to be part of MTG, so it all was taken care of by another gigantic team. Once Viasat has settled and started operating more and more independently from the MTG services, there was a need to create an operations team, and my boss stepped in naturally into that role, and then she understood that she needs a second person to help out, especially because and that's how obviously we've met. We were just about to launch a massive project on changing the scheduling and acquisitions software across the board, across all the offices of Viasat. And that's how the role appeared. And I thought that actually, because as I said, my department became much smaller, and also we got settled. So the perspective of some sort of new and big and exciting projects was not so big, whilst an operations department was developing and being built from scratch. So I applied for that role and decided to move into operations and to challenge myself in that way.
Yeah, because I guess the management previous has been for a department, but for a bigger corporate entity. Yeah. And so, I guess a natural progression would be for now a smaller broadcaster, but your management responsibilities is across multiple teams and departments then. Mm-hmm. And then I guess you've gone a bit further still, right? So the last things you were managing is projects.
Yes, and then I thought that actually I think a lot of people in broadcast at some point of their lives consider going freelance, because you need freelance people in pretty much every role. But you always, it's scary. It's scary to jump. It's scary to take this leap of faith and think, well, will anyone even ever hire me, or how will I manage the uncertainties of having job, not having job, and all the rest of it. But at that time, I just thought, well, you know what? It's a good time to do it now, because the more settled down I'm going to be here, the scarier it's going to become to jump, and hence we finished the project that we've been working on together, and then I decided that I do, if not now, then when, and I took a leap of faith and resigned without finding anything else, and I had a month off. It was lovely, and then because obviously by that time I've been working more 9-10 years, you do work out contacts and friends and good acquaintances, and working in Chiswick, obviously great because you end up, it's a really good TV hub, so you do bump into people, coffee places and everywhere. And I just bumped into someone from Encompass who said that they're looking for project management, and that's what I wanted to try. And we've talked and decided that I'm going to try working for them. And then I worked for them for just over a year, as a freelancer. And that was brilliant. It was brilliant as well. However, very scary, because project management is not something I did. I did a lot of project management at my previous roles, but it was not as formalized. And it was definitely not into a much more like a technological side, where obviously Encompass specializes.
I guess like when you moved to the UK, you had to be a bit brave, I guess, and just take that leap of faith. But if you have faith in yourself, then that's one of the main things, right?
Yes, I think you do need to have faith in yourself. However, you really do doubt yourself, but you just need to carry on, talk with people, ask questions. Don't worry about asking stupid questions, because it's better to learn. Because once you ask the question, you're going to learn, and then you'll know it. Whilst if you're not going to ask a question, you're going to make same mistakes or not understand something, why this or that is done in one way or the other. And of course, I need to say it was really scary, because it really puts under question your self, how sure in yourself you are. Because as a production manager, I've done it for so many years. I'm really confident. It puts in doubt your confidence, and I can do the budgets, and I know the costs, I know all the timelines. I can be really confident in my role, while doing a project management in moving from one automation system to another for a big client is not something I've ever done before, and hence every time something goes wrong or I ask question, self-confidence really, really diminishes. But then very quickly, by being, open and proactive and asking questions and talking with relevant people, you start building it back up again, because you just start learning a lot of new things. And I really enjoyed that year, because that year, was like another university degree. I've learned so much.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, looking back at all those sort of different management roles and even the early years in, the film production, is there any highlights that stand out for you, Anastasija?
Well, I think finding a job in a different country to begin with was a fairly highlight, and then moving freelance and doing something that I haven't quite done before on a fairly senior level as well, so responsibility is slightly different, was very rewarding at the end, if stressful to begin with.
And I always like to have a bit of a retrospective. So looking back, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self now, Anastasija, what would you tell yourself?
I would actually tell myself to go and work, to do an internship, or to become a runner, or to do something for a year or a couple of years before getting a degree. No, I would not change my career. I would definitely stay in film and TV. So that was a good choice. But I think I would want to try more things, so that I know much more what I want to learn later on. Because getting education is great, because you just well, not only because you're getting educated, but also because you meet obviously a lot of people who then you become friends or colleagues with and everything. But I think I would try to find out what I want to do more at the job before actually moving and learning.
Yeah. So
that's what I would have done.
Yeah. And what does sort of success mean to you, Anastasija? What's the passion? What's the drive? What's keeps you ticking over?
Well, I think it's working as a part of a team. And generally, I think for all my management roles, really what really truly matters is being able to work with people that I really like. I like organizing people, but I really like working as a team. And what keeps ticking me and, wakes me up in the morning, like ready to go, is an aim, like a well-defined aim that we need to achieve to a certain deadline. And once you work with people who are all passionate or love what they do and being sort of part of a good team, who you're confident with. So you being very reliable and working with a really reliable and confident team. That's my a true love at my project management and production role.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if people sort of want to reach out to you, they can sort of get you on LinkedIn or something like that?
Yes, definitely. If anyone wants any, further chat or some other advice or anything like that, definitely LinkedIn will be the best way, and then we can arrange a call or something like that.
Yeah, so that's Anastasija Saprygina on LinkedIn. So yeah, I was just going to sort of finish the interview, and I'd just like to say thanks for joining us, Anastasija. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It has been brilliant. Thank you very much, Ben.
No problem. Talk to you again.
Yeah, talk to you again. Bye-bye.